Welcome back to LegitStreetCars. My name is Alex, and a few months ago I bought this, my 2009 C63 AMG, and right off the bat I knew there were two things I had to do to this car. Well, actually, there was more like 10 or 15 things, like removing all of the gaudy stickers and questionable cosmetic modifications done to this car. And then I had to fix a bunch of stuff to fully sort this car, but I knew that there was definitely two things I eventually had to do to my C63 AMG. The first being removing the totally hacked up straight pipe exhaust, and it also had some blue flame tips that I wasn't exactly fond of. And second was building one of the best sounding AMG V8 cars in the entire world. And I think we've done that. Jesus! Oh, this sounds so good. I am never, ever gonna wanna stop driving this car. It sounds amazing. Man, do I have an awesome video for all of you guys today. Not only are we gonna learn the science behind building a proper exhaust system
that allows the sounds to blend seamlessly and kind of create a more exotic tone similar to a supercar.
but we're gonna be ripping the C63 on the dyno. And then towards the end, we're gonna have a supercar and C63 rev battle. Now, of course, I'm gonna be sprinkling in some sound clips for you guys throughout this entire video. But first and foremost, I have to say a massive thank you to Fluid MotorUnion in Naperville, Illinois. They built the exhaust on this car. They did a fantastic job, as you guys are gonna learn. And if you guys need anything done to any car, modifications, repairs, you name it, they're in Naperville, Illinois, but a lot of people ship their cars to them. I am gladly putting their contact information down below. There'll be a link to their website. I have become really good friends with the owner, OJ Lopez. His entire family is awesome. The whole team over there, the shop foreman, all the techs, they are great. So guys, I couldn't give them any more praise than I just did right now, so check them out. Now, if you guys follow the channel, then you know the exhaust system for the C63 started a couple months ago when I decided to install some long tube headers at home in my garage. Now, this is a difficult project in itself because they crammed this massive 6.2 liter V8 in a tiny C-Class, but to make things even worse, a couple of the exhaust manifold studs broke off in the cylinder heads, and I had a bear of a time drilling them out. In some situations, you have to remove the engine from the car because you can't get a good angle with the drill. But anyway, I'll leave a link down below to that video. I did it, but it was insanely hard, and there is a ton to learn from that video, guys, so definitely check that out as well. So after getting the long tube headers installed in the C63, the car sounded like this. So needless to say, I needed to complete the entire exhaust. It's not realistic, nor my plan whatsoever, to run around with open headers. So I brought the car to Fluid MotorUnion. Now, most people in the AMG community consider the M156 engine, the 6.2 liter dual overhead cam naturally aspirated V8 that's in this car, to be one of, if not the best sounding naturally aspirated AMG V8s in the world. And I definitely agree. I think this car, or not this car, but any car with this engine just sounds fantastic. They love to rev. They pull basically at any RPM, and they sound amazing. So I spoke with OJ about the project, and he had mentioned that a few years back, he built the exhaust from the headers all the way back on a CLK Black Series with the exact same engine, and that it was one of the best sounding cars that he'd ever built. And so we decided to kind of grab a little bit of inspiration from that car and build this exhaust. So my main goals for the exhaust were obviously sound and performance, but I also wanted to retain catalytic converters on the car as well, and I wanted it to be valved so that I can go from mild to wild at the press of a button. So it's kind of hard to tell right now, but we just opened up the 2 valves in the back of the exhaust, and it makes such a big difference. But with it closed, there's no drone whatsoever. It is very, very docile, very usable. I'm driving around right now with it closed, and honestly, when you're not in it, it almost feels like a stock C63, but as soon as you rip into it, well... All right, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear this, but we're going about 20 miles an hour. The valves are closed, so it's going through the resonator. Let's see what she sounds like. Oh my gosh. Guys, I cannot even describe this. Oh, Jesus. This car is tuned, so it does the little pop thingy, and it just does the automatic downshift. I can't even talk right now. This sounds so good. Anyway, that is valved. Now let's hit the button. It just says on. You hit it once, and now we are in loud mode. So here we go. Jeez. Okay, so there's a difference in the car. There's definitely a big difference in the car. Not sure if you guys can catch it from the inside. So here are a couple clips from the outside. Let's talk money. In all of my videos, I like to break down how much all of this crazy stuff costs, and I'm gonna go ahead and get this out of the way right now because I hear this all the time when I've made videos on the E55 where it got a $3,000 ceramic coating or a $1,000 tinted window job. Everybody's like, that car isn't worth it. It's only like an $8,000, $9,000 car. This is the exact same thing, guys. So I paid $8,500 for a rebuilt Title C63, and the exhaust that is currently on my car right now is about a $10,000 exhaust. And guys, no, that is not a good idea, okay? I make YouTube videos. Some guys go out and spend a couple $100,000 on a Lamborghini or a McLaren. The taxes that they pay on those cars cost more than pretty much all of mine. I make these videos to take things to the extreme, and when I partnered up with Fluid, this was kind of to showcase their amazing fabrication skills and to see if we can build what we now believe, or at least I believe, to be the best sounding naturally aspirated AMG V8 car. So yeah, $10,000 exhaust on a rebuilt title car, probably not the best idea, but also Fluid built a jig off of my car so we can duplicate this exhaust, and it can be made with lesser materials. So this car, this exhaust is made of medical grade stainless steel, okay? So this is what they do on pretty much all of their SuperCar builds and whatnot. So this is basically a SuperCar build, but on a much cheaper car. So medical grade stainless steel. We have 2 really nice and expensive valves in the back. Like you saw, it is actuated with a remote. So all this kind of stuff adds up. The headers were about $3,000 alone. And there's also about 100 hours worth of labor. But if you guys want to get something similar, again, contact Fluid. They can do something that's way more budget friendly now that they have the exact system built off of my car. So something I wanted to mention before we head back to Fluid right now is that the fabricator that built this car along with OJ designed and built it with his main fabricator. He actually has worked for NASCAR teams, like the top NASCAR teams, for the last 20 years as a fabricator. He does absolutely amazing work, and it was really cool for me to pop in every once in a while and film some of this work. So obviously the entire exhaust is TIG welded, it's all V-banded, it's all the best of the best, and his work just basically speaks for itself. It is an an art form for sure. So Billy, the fabricator at Fluid, is no joke. So let's head back to Fluid right now. We're going to talk to both of these guys on the science behind this. But first, let's rip this thing on the dyno. All right, so OJ's got the C63 strapped to the dyno and ready to go, and we are not going for numbers here. We're actually gonna be shifting this thing through the gears so we can really get a good idea of what she sounds like. But don't worry, the C63 will be on the dyno in a future episode, and we're gonna test the difference in power between 93 octane and E85 on this naturally aspirated 6.2 liter. So anyway, here we go, and I really hope my audio equipment can catch this because she is loud. All right, so these are the two behind the amazing exhaust on the C63. You guys know OJ, of course, and this is Billy, the main fabricator here at Fluid. He is the one that came from NASCAR, as I was telling you guys. What were some of the big challenges? I know this took you guys a while, and you were building a jig off of this. So if we started like from the front here where I installed the headers, what were some issues you guys ran into, design stuff?
Yeah, a big part was just trying to get our stuff to attach to the headers that were already put on the car. When we've done exhaust in the past, all of the headers kind of fit up differently to where they start and end. So we kind of had to make sure that what we could do was going to fit and not cause any problems, and any part that was on there wasn't going to, you know, maybe cause an issue later on down the road. So one of the things I didn't want to take away from the sound was this mechanical O2 simulator. Now these work really well to keeping the light off, but we've got that more or less handled with the cats. And if you decide to go to test pipes, which we also built you a set for racing purposes only, if you decide to go to test pipes, the ECU tune can be modified to take care of that while you're racing.
Okay, so you guys had to literally cut these off of the headers. This whole pipe here with this was part of the headers? Yes. Wow. Okay, yeah, this does look like it would restrict a ton of flow. And
it would also create an unclean sound, which you might not pick up on our normal exhaust system, but because this is so straight through, we've got to be very careful of, you know, where we put the bends, where we put the resonators, because when you get, you know, when you have something where you're trying to get your cleanest sound, any restriction in there can cause, you know, a really weird situation. So now we wanted to keep this car legal by all means. In our state here, you have to have all the readiness monitors set, which means that the secondary O2s need to be seeing some sort of functioning of the cat. So we went with drop-ins here, as you can see by the dual V-band. That allows them to come in and out, but also allows you to be able to pass emissions with no issues during normal driving.
So the very first part of this system that we built was the X-pipe. We basically got under the car, took some measurements off the car to see the openings that we had, and started building this whole setup on the bench. Basically from the back of the V-band on the cat to where we know the pipe was going to start splitting apart to go to the quad tips. OJ is going to explain the science behind the X pipe because we put X pipes on almost every exhaust system that we built here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, a big believer in X pipes. Ideally, when you're building an exhaust, you want as straight as possible, unless you're trying to maximize sound. And that's really kind of the science behind the X pipes. If you imagine it, you've got two 4-cylinder engines here, V'd together via the crankshaft. This is blending both banks, so when you have an X pipe, you're actually taking those two, running them past each other to create a better, deeper, more pleasant sound, you know? So X's are the way we go. I don't do H pipes. I don't like anything that comes off at a 90-degree angle. I think it leaves a hollow rasp noise. So if you do an X similar to this, and as you can see, it's once it makes the turn, it almost is an uninterrupted flow into the next part. They're crossing over, they're not really hitting each other. So that allows the sounds to blend seamlessly and kind of create a more exotic tone similar to a supercar, which is kind of what we think we did.
And we had to change the crossover mount here. We wanted to keep this exhaust system as flat as we possibly could, coming from where we had on the headers that were aftermarket. So what I did is I took the stock AMG piece, which is aluminum, cut it apart, and fit it to the car so that it could come down an 1.25 inches. So this entire exhaust system is made out of 304 medical grade stainless steel. It's been purged welded, which means, like we talked about before, it's got the gas on the inside of it. To get welds that look like this throughout the whole system, we have cleaned the welds or cleaned the pipes on the inside with lacquer thinner. The whole outside has been Scotch brighted. We use a different style welding cup so we can flow a lot of gas to it. That's how we get the pretty colors that eventually will go away with heat coming through the system the whole time. So the entire system is 3-inch. We did neck it down right here to meet the resonators on the front and the rear. It's a Howell resonator all the way through. We had to come in here, you have the stock piece on there, and then what we had to do was neck down to it to fit in it because that's a 2.5-inch pipe.
OJ, you were saying the reason you guys neck down for the resonator is for sound purposes.
Yeah, drone control. So basically, and when people hear the word drone, you're talking about a frequency of the pipe bouncing up and down, the sound wave bouncing up and down as it goes down the exhaust. When you have a lot of big openings where you have quad tips, if you keep that frequency the same, that's where drone picks up as you get into a certain RPM range, right? So by necking it down, that kind of interrupts it and allows it to not drone as much and not drive you as crazy. So that was a big part of trying to keep this thing
One
same.
thing that was shocking to me was the difference between the wild and mild mode, because this is just a straight through design resonator. I honestly didn't think this was going to do much at all, but it is a massive difference, especially inside of the car. And it's really cool that you guys were able to control that with the sizing of the pipe.
Really, when you're designing exhaust, most of the factory have to deal with constraints of the vehicle. So when we're looking at it and trying to maximize the sound, there's a few little tricks and tips that we've been using over the years. One of them is necking it down with the resonator towards the end. In closed mode, it'll interrupt flow, but at the same time, you're not looking for the maximal horsepower there. In open mode, you have it splitting here dual, so there's no interruption of flow. You can go out one way or can go out the other way. You pretty much have as much air as you need to get out of this thing. So it's actually pretty common to see cars neck down when they're using valves. A Ferrari FF that we had just recently done actually necked down to close to 2 inches. Right here, that's the straight through valve. So when that's shut, it's deferring through this 2-inch pipe here. And when it's open, you got your straight through Ferrari full power loud V12 sound. So really common method of controlling the exhaust volume. Here we've got 3 inches for the valve, so when that thing's straight open, it's straight open. So the valve choice, we did something a little different. This car has a nice area to tap in for vacuum. Most exhausts you're gonna see are vacuum when the engine is on. That's when the highest amount of manifold vacuum is. We did it reverse. So this is normally shut and vacuum will open it via a switch and a check valve. We did that because a lot of our customers complain that when they really want these cars quiet is at startup, and that's almost impossible with a system like that. So with this system at startup, you have the option of keeping it quiet. And once you hit that button, it's as loud as you want it to be.
And the last piece to the puzzle were the tips. If you guys saw the video where I literally crushed the blue flame tips that were on this car. Okay, that didn't work. You know that I really like the factory style AMG tips, so OJ was able to get us just that. So we have the AMG logo on there, just like factory. It looks basically stock, and I love it. So let's get this thing outside for a little supercar rev battle. All right, so we're gonna end this video in style with a good old-fashioned rev battle. So OJ, who are today's contenders?
So we want to find out if your car sounds like a supercar. I figured we'd bring some supercars out here. So coincidentally, we've got more than a handful of cars that we've done the complete exhausts on. So up first, we have a car that we did in conjunction with Lexus of North America. It's a brand new 2020 Lexus LC 500. PPE headers up front, and then we designed the exhaust all the way back from there. So kind of a similar setup to your car where different headers, but then we do the full exhaust. This one's pretty wild. We kind of pulled all the stops out, but Lexus teamed up with us and in benefit to raise awareness for Cal's Angels. We've had kind of a wild livery with actual kids who've been affected by pediatric cancer handprints on the front of the car.
That's awesome.
So second there's your car. All these things are warming up right now just so we can get them to their top RPM. We'll skip over because you probably know already about your car. The McLaren here, it's the car for sale at our neighbors next door, Chicago Motor Cars. Basically, from the downpipes back, full straight through exhaust. Now these cars have turbos, and a turbo always kind of quiets the exhaust up a little bit, but it is a supercar. It gets pretty loud, it gets pretty violent once you get on it, so it'll be an interesting comparison, turbo versus naturally aspirated. And the last one, this thing is a monster. It's a GT3 RS, straight piped, and we built it, headers back, but we did it with the intention of making it as loud and as wild as possible, and we nailed it. So these are three different cars, but we're gonna see if your car can compete.
Do you think it's gonna be the loudest? Which one do you think will be the loudest?
Oh man, your car's loud, but I don't know if it's gonna be able to compete with this thing. This thing is
this guy right here.
The motor's in the back, and we've got everything back there. This thing is near piercing, although it may not let us get up to the full $9 grand at idle or in park. So
right. All right, let's do this. Billy, which one's gonna be the loudest? You built them all.
The McLaren.
The McLaren, really?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go, Lexus. All right, OJ, let's do this. All right, Daddy. Whenever you're ready. You know what? All right, clear it up. Hey, what RPMs it let you go to?
It won't go past 4.
Oh, man. Dude, does this really have 178 miles on it?
Yeah.
All right, let's try one more time. I don't know, would it help going into neutral? Instead of park, I don't know. Whenever you're ready. All right, guys, that'll do it for today's video. Make sure to comment down below which one of these cars you guys think sounds the best. And with that, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button, share the video, subscribe if you're new, and most importantly, have an awesome day.